this be one of the best moments of your life. You're listening to the Business Mirror Podcast for a broader look on business with Senior Editor Dennis Estopace.
Welcome to Tuesdays at BM with Laika, where Business Mirror columnist Laika Balita shares with us her thoughts on life. For the text version online, please go to the Business Mirror website and search for Laika Balita. For the print edition, please read Laika's column Onwards every Tuesday in the Business Mirror newspaper. Let's get on with the story.
Every national crisis, we hear these words uttered with pride: Filipino resilience and bayanihan. So from the recent Taal eruption, the annual typhoon destructions, and even the current pandemic, we always hear these words thrown around: Filipino resilience and bayanihan. They're practically staple words in times of Philippine crisis. But have you ever noticed how these words come from those in power and never from the victims? Meanwhile, the actual victims of these crises, they ask for help and they protest against the lack of preparedness. And the private sectors listen. So we have private initiatives such as typhoon relief efforts, private donation drives, and the recent community pantries. Meanwhile, many in power, they just sit back, pat themselves on the back, and talk about how much they admire the mandatory and ever-present Filipino resilience and bayanihan in times of need, as if these were compliments rather than indicators of flaws in the system. Does anyone else see anything wrong with that? So there has been a recent surge in community food pantries all over the country. This started around last week. So private persons, they donate food and other goods so that others who need them can freely get as much as they need. They have a common theme. It's magbigay batay sa kakayahan, kumuha batay sa pangangailangan. Of course, this movement is so admirable. It shows that even in times like this, in a pandemic, kindness and generosity, they still exist. So it's not up for debate that we private persons can and should help one another when we can, when we have the resources to do so. But this does not eliminate the fact that movements like these have an underlying message. The people have stopped expecting those in power to help them, so we have taken matters into our own hands. Many believe that these community pantries are protests, statements, and movements. And this makes sense, considering that the donations do not actually come from huge corporations or the wealthiest people in the country. If these pantries were begun and supported by the super wealthy, then it would have been so much easier to dismiss them as mere bayanihan or corporate social responsibility efforts. We could have argued that movements like these, it doesn't have to be political since it's just the super rich giving to those in need. But the thing is, in these community pantries, the people who started them, the donors, and the manpower of these pantries are ordinary people. They're the fishermen, the farmers, the average Filipino citizen. And that's not mere bayanihan. That is a protest with a message. Applauding these activities and attributing them solely to Filipino resilience and bayanihan and stopping there completely ignores the context in which these movements arose. It ignores the fact that these movements would not have been needed in the first place if there were proper action from those in power. It ignores the fact that not everyone has survived and will survive this pandemic, hence the need for pantries like these. It ignores the fact that the people have found hope elsewhere, no longer in the hands of the people in power, but instead in the hands of those who are suffering too. Yet, these people choose to help their fellow Filipinos. So these movements, they're not asking for your admiration or for your applause. They're demanding actual positive change. And it blows my mind that there are still critics of this movement that wants to feed others, to help others, to encourage solidarity. Are people supposed to apologize for wanting everyone to have something to eat? Are the donors supposed to revoke and take back their donations to just stand back and watch their fellow Filipinos starve? More interestingly, what does it say about the person when a community pantry threatens him and what he stands for? Again, what does it say about a person when a community pantry that feeds other people threatens him and what he stands for? Empty promises cannot feed the hungry. You know what could? Community pantries. On the other hand, when has desperate propaganda fed anyone other than the propagators? Here are some words that sound better than resilience and bayanihan. Fed citizens, competitive pandemic response, sustainable inclusive infrastructures. That was the change that should have come. So kudos to those who have supported movements such as the community pantries, such as by starting these pantries or even donating to them. To take a stand and to selflessly give your own resources to those who need them is definitely an act of courage. So may these movements continue to help, spark hope, and open the eyes of many.
Thank you for listening to the Business Mirror podcast. For a broader look on business, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Business Mirror. Until next time.